Is there drama? Is there trouble? A brewing? Well, it turns out Biden is upset with Kamala Harris. Why would Joe Biden be upset with Kamala? I don't want to. Hey, liberals, 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 sit down. Sit down, you lovely, beautiful people. I don't want to burst your bubble and ruin your honeymoon feelings, especially with the lackluster DNC convention. I mean, Jesus Christ, how did Kamala not even capitalize the weekend after the DNC convention and lose the momentum by having Trump take that weekend away from her? But yeah, no, there's drama. There is a lot of drama happening because Biden is upset with Kamala Harris. So let's talk about this. Yes, this is from RT, just to trigger the libs. U.S. President Joe Biden has privately complained that he is no longer being given credit for his service, NBC News claimed on Tuesday. Citing insiders, Biden's reportedly upset that the national media's attention has switched to the Democratic presidential nominee, Kamala Harris. He's out of the limelight. Oh, say it with me, folks. He's out of the limelight. He's gone. And old man Biden's sad. Since Biden ended his campaign in the wake of a disastrous June debate with Republican candidate and former President Donald Trump, Harris has distanced herself from the U.S. president, the report claimed. Biden was particularly stung by the moment during Harris's debate with Trump last month when she said, "Clearly, I am not Joe Biden and I am not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country." With that statement there, folks, let's be clear here. Do you think Kamala's any better than Joe Biden or Donald Trump? Type 1 for yes, Kit. She's a serious person. She's going to win, and shame on you, you awful man. A type 2, man, she's no different. Biden was stung. I'm like, oh, Kamala, how could you say these mean things about me? The remark was in response to Trump equating her with the president on policy. Harris has repeated the same message on other occasions, including a media interview. There wasn't a real interest in hearing about Biden's accomplishments when he was running. That's still the case, as a Harris campaign official told NBC News. Another source said the president understands completely the general lack of mentioning Bidenomics and Joe Biden politically. But even though he wants Harris to win, does he? And offers whatever support he can make that to happen, he remains bitter about what he takes as being left behind, the report said. Well, gee, Biden, maybe you would have avoided this embarrassment if actually you did follow through with your promise, but you probably forgot about it, and that was you were going to be a one-term president. At least you could have then, quote unquote, could have bowed out gracefully. But then again, let's face it, folks, these politicians have the maturity of a 5-year-old, okay? They are very vain. They are completely egotistical. They don't care if their crap stinks. These politicians have no integrity. But wait a minute, hold on. I got to rewind that because I've seen kids who have more integrity and, dare I say it, more tact than any of these politicians. What are these politicians? What they are is hollow. They're shells. They can't think for themselves because they're owned by their corporate donors. Prior to the decision to quit the race, the Biden campaign struggled to downplay his moments of frailty and confusion in public, which many voters perceive as signs of decline in the 81-year-old politician. No, they were signs of decline. They weren't showing signs. Those were we saw it in 2020. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like everyone's like, I didn't know Joe Biden was in a decline. Oh, I didn't know he was sick and forgetting things. How did this happen? This proves my point that there are people who are in collective denial. I mean, if you tell them that their favorite person isn't all there, I mean, seriously, what? Clips of such moments used by the Republican Party to attack then Democratic nominee were dismissed by officials as cheap fakes. Trump, 78, has had his share of mental slips on the campaign trail, but was universally described as more energetic and coherent than Biden during their June debate. Nevertheless, during an appearance on The View last week, Biden insisted that he could have won the race. He claimed, "The fact of the matter is my polling was about what, always within the range of beating this guy," before musing about his advanced age. So he's sad. But the thing is, folks, this election is going to be showing us things. And I want you guys to remember that if Trump is to win, the Democrats are going to be in a full-blown panic. They are going to be panicking like they have never done so before. And unfortunately, this little back and forth between Biden and Kamala can pretty much well cost her.
Points that just jump off the screen.
Now, I know the volume's low on this one, so I just want to be clear. When I clip this video, I will be raising the volume.
Points that just jump off the screen should set off sirens. All right, this is union households. This is Democratic margin in presidential election. It ain't what it used to be. You know, you go back to 1992, Bill Clinton won that union vote by 30 points. Hillary Clinton only won it by 12 points back in 2016. That was the lowest mark for a Democrat since 1984, Mondale versus Reagan. But look at where Kamala Harris is today. She's only leading by 9 points. That would be the worst Democratic performance in a generation, 10 points off the mark of Joe Biden, who, of course, won 4 years ago.
By the way, union people who voted for Biden, how'd that work out for you? Just throwing it out there.
Sort of that union guy, Union Joe, right? Won it by 19 points. She's 10 points off his mark, and the worst in a generation, if this, in fact, holds, Sarah.
It is interesting to note that the difference between this, and Biden still won.
Still won.
But those numbers are significantly down. All right, talk to me about manual labor, those folks who went to trade schools.
Yeah, those folks who use their hands. I think a lot of people oftentimes conflate the union vote with those who use their hands. Mike Rowe, of course, has been arguing more people should go to trade schools. More people should get a vocational degree. Look at this margin. This, to me, oh boy, does this tell you about the state of our politics now versus back in the early 1990s? Margin among vocational and trade school grads in pre-election polling. Bill Clinton was leading that vote over George H.W. Bush by 7 points. Look at where Donald Trump is today over Kamala Harris, a 31-point advantage. When I think people think of the working class, they think of people who use their hands. And we know that Donald Trump has been going after that vote, and he is in a very strong position, more so perhaps than any other bloc. The folks who go to trade school, vocational school, that has moved from being a core Democratic group to now being a core group of Donald Trump's massive amount of support among the working class.
All right, let's move on to voters of color. And there's a very specific group.
There's something I want to point out, and the audience, this is why I love my audience. You guys and gals, absolutely beautiful. But you know, they brought up Hillary Clinton, they brought up Bill Clinton, they brought up Joe Biden, and they even brought up Kamala. Hey, where's Barack Obama? Folks, I notice I'm kind of missing there. No one wants to talk about how I just let the 2008 economic collapse just go on unchecked, and nobody was held arrested, because we had to look forward, not backwards. And of course, we have to remember too that during these last 3.5 years, who was president? Joe Biden. Who has failed unions? Who has failed workers? Who has failed the American people in general? This administration. And you're not going to believe this, but Kamala Harris is Joe Biden's vice president, which can also explain why there's a rift between the two, why these two have been going at each other's throats, because this isn't anything new. Maybe why Biden is upset with Kamala, because every task that Biden gave Kamala, she failed epically at.
Group that you looked at, and what are you saying?
Yeah, you know, we've been noting on this program, right, that Donald Trump seems to have been having some real impact among voters of color, getting into that traditional Democratic support. And I was very interested to see this, because we're talking about the working class, right? So this is the margin among non-college graduates, all right, the voters of color. You go back 4 years ago, look at that. Joe Biden won that group by 45 points.
And again, seriously, people who were bullied into voting for Biden, what were you thinking? Never let anybody bully you. You never let a weak liberal bully you. Screw what they say. Okay? That's right, vote blue no matter who. I'm encouraging my audience to do whatever the hell they want to do on election night. The choice is yours, because at the end of the day, look at these two. Do these two look like they care about, workers, people of color, anybody? No. Did they follow through with any of their promises? No. And these two have had fights, Biden and Harris. It kind of also explains about Harris's own failure, because think about it. Every task that Biden gave Kamala, she failed at. And it also says a lot about her own leadership. I mean, she hemorrhaged 40 people from her staff? I mean, that says a lot about a person's leadership. I mean, it's either Kamala is like a Chef Marco or a Chef Ramsay in her office, and it's got to be perfect, or she truly is an absolute nightmare to work with. Your choice.
Look at where Kamala Harris's support is today. She's still leading amongst that group, but that lead is down 17 points to just 28 points. And I will note that the margin among voters of color who actually graduate college has only been changed by 5 points. 5 points compared to 4 years ago. The reason Donald Trump is doing so well amongst voters of color is because he has really gone in and grabbed a lot of voters that he didn't previously have among those who didn't graduate college. And this is part of a larger trend that we're seeing throughout our politics era, in which Republicans, specifically Donald Trump, is doing very, very well among working class voters, whether they were in unions, whether they went to trade school, or whether they're voters of color. The fact is, Donald Trump seems to have gone into a hotbed of traditional Democratic support and made a lot of movement in ways I don't think a lot of people would have thought when he went down that escalator just back in 2015.
All right, Harry Ensign, bringing us the numbers as they.
So there's a lot to take away. What does this say in regards towards Biden and Kamala? Well, if you were Joe Biden, I know, hold on. Bear with me. Let's just look at this in regards to Biden being somewhat relatable. I know. Bear with me on this one. You know, Joe Biden, he had a career in politics. Tried not once, but twice, but 3 times to become president. 3rd time's always a charm, especially when you have the DNC establishment controlling the scale. And of course, you have the nutless cuck Bernie Sanders bowing and bending over backwards to appease the Democratic establishment. All of a sudden, you lose it. You lose your power. You lose your influence. You lose everything that you worked so hard for. And then you are cast aside. You're then vilified by the very person who was your second in command. Now, Kamala hasn't been a full-on attack like how Donald Trump has been towards Joe Biden, but she's distancing herself. She is separating herself, many degrees of separation against Joe Biden. So it's understandable why he would be angry. It is understandable why he would be upset. I get it. It's fine. But the problem for Joe Biden and the problem for Democrats is that everyone's been paying attention to now Kamala. And what is she running on? I mean, it took her 48 days to have policies on her campaign website. And even then, the person who coded it forgot to take out "Vote Joe Biden." What were you thinking, Democrats? I mean, seriously, is there never a day where you don't screw up? But the thing is, liberals and Democrats, Kamala was Biden's VP. So all these policies that were under, she knew what was happening. And if she actually gave a damn, she would have done something. So that means she knew about these policies. She knew about the long-term effects of it. And of course, they all probably knew that Joe Biden was in a decline. So Kamala trying to separate herself is the biggest joke that there is. So it is understandable why he would be upset, because she was there. She had to have known. And even if she wasn't in the office, I'm pretty sure one of her campaign staffers probably maybe crawled, submitting to her, handing her a piece of paper for her to look at. She probably gazed at it for 1 second and then threw it in the trash bin. But she knew. So this fight between Kamala and Biden, while it's not maybe front and center, it does show a lot in regards to how this administration was ruling over us. There's petty behavior. There's ego. There's pride. These are not leaders. And this goes to a point that's been brought up on Jimmy Dore's show, INN, Due Dissidence, RBN, Hard Lens Media, and everyone across the political spectrum, whether you're left or right. We are witnessing a decline of a nation. We have workers going on strike. We have an economy in an absolute free fall. We have wars happening all around. And what are our leaders doing, especially in the highest office of the land? Being bitter and petty. Jealousy is rising. There's no leadership. We have no leaders. Hey, folks, when I clip this segment, I'm going to ask you a question. No, I won't ask you to vote. But this is a very serious question, and there's no such thing as a wrong answer. Who is the president of the United States right now? Who's really running the show? Type your comments in the comment section below. Who's running this sinking ship?